Reinhardt is an absolute giga chad in ranked, introducing the man himself that will teach you how to dominate lobbies.
Hi guys, my name is Luke, better known as Wanston. I'm the current main tank player for Penn State University, and I play beside Paz in collegiate Overwatch. I'm a current top 40 tank player with 2 accounts sitting around top 100 at times. The tempo for Rein is mainly based on what the enemy tank is playing. When you're looking at your tank matchup, your goals for each game may be different. Examples of these would be in some games, you may be solely looking to keep space while building as many shatters as possible. Other times, you may just be looking to enable your DPS while baiting out resources of the other team. For characters that can't block Shatter, look to build Shatter quickly while also being in the enemy tank's face. And when you have a free Shatter every time because they not block it, these fights are a lot easier to carry, as long as you can get a Shatter that is worth 1 to 2 guaranteed kills. It is also nice against certain heroes like Junker Queen and Roadhog, where you can use Shatter to cancel their ult, while also building another Shatter back before they can get a new ult. This tip is for characters that can't take space against your shield easily, including Zarya, Junker Queen, Doomfist, Roadhog, and Sigma. If you're playing in a Zarya's face, it's way harder for her to take space. She's most likely looking to play off her bubbles, and it is also easy to bait out her bubbles while you're facing her as well with swing discipline. If you want to attempt to get tricky with characters like Roadhog, you can swing shield in a pattern that blocks his pellets in a way that also lets you get your shatter charge off of him by swinging on him. If you need to back up during abilities like shout or any attempt of pressure that your supports cannot help you sustain, jumping backwards while holding shield in the air but letting it down as you hit the ground helps reduce Rein's movement reduction while he's holding shield. This beats just holding shield while backing up the whole time. It is important to know your limits while building your tempo, and to look at certain buffs and debuffs that the enemy may have. Some examples of these include Ana Anti, Zen Discord, and Kiri Cleanse. Look to block nade or ask for a Kiri on your team while you're learning, so this mistake is not as costly. Zen Discord will also be an attempt to slow your tempo, and you may find yourself holding shield more while it is on you. If it is convenient, you can look to break line of sight using crouch or cover, then retaking space with shield up, as Zen cannot discord you through shield until you put it down. Pay close attention to abilities like Kiri Cleanse when using Shatter or Pin, because either of those getting negated can easily become a lost fight. Obviously, there are some maps and situations where Reinhardt is just at a complete disadvantage compared to other tanks. An example of this would be Numbani's first point. In these situations, how you play Rein may completely depend on your team comp. An example of this would be if you're playing with DPS like Ast or Sojourn, you can walk high ground and hold shield to enable these players. If your DPS, however, are doing air and not helping you at all, you can take it into your own hands and walk underneath up to high ground to take it yourself, using Pin for movement when needed. Although some of these examples may be specific, I find them very usable on many maps and situations as long as you know what your goal is on Reinhardt in that scenario. Set your tempo goals and adapt accordingly based on the enemy team's swaps and your own team comp. Like anything, a good balance is needed when discussing shielding and hammering, but a lot of it is based on the goals you set for your tempo and how you adapt. Characters like Orisa or Ramatra may have you shielding more than you'd like to get out of things like getting speared or to back up while Rami's using his shift. To know when you can drop it in these scenarios, it's as easy as tracking these abilities and knowing when things like spear are on cooldown or when Ramatra's shift is about to be down. An alternative to this would just be to reaction block abilities like spear when you see them being deployed. This makes everything way easier when you're balancing these swings. Hammer is a super powerful ability in helping you build your shatter. You can manipulate it for max range swings while tilting it slightly to the side in order to hit targets that are slightly farther away. You may also become like me and use it most of the time out of habit for possible collateral hits for more ult charge. Shield, on the other hand, is able to be manipulated and maneuvered in ways that may better help you achieve your tempo goals. You can look around while holding shield by holding down both your mouse buttons at the same time. You can hold shield straight up against comps like Far Mercy and let your team walk under them like an umbrella. If your shield gets stuck with an enemy ability like Pulse Bomb or Cassidy Nade, you can quickly drop your shield and redeploy it to drop the bomb off your shield. You can also clip it through a wall to negate any damage that may be given to your team. Look to use shield to interrupt things like Hog Hook as well when he grabs one of your teammates. Tip number 3 is about Pin. Pin on Reinhardt in Overwatch 2 got a huge buff from Overwatch 1 as you can now cancel it. It has 2 main uses: movement as well as doing your quick burst damage. You are also able to curve it at a much steeper angle than you were able to before. Look to Pin to chase down enemies after fights, but just be careful and know your limits. Get used to meeting dive tanks when they land after their dive. You are able to predict where characters like D.Va and Winston will land after they use their movement ability to acquire positioning on high ground. Some other things to look for are pinning the enemy Rein to bring down his shield as your team's Cassidy is using his ult. Another example is pinning Doom as soon as he lands out of ult by lining up the circle that is displayed when he is deploying it. His slam does not cancel your pin and therefore is an easy way to land a free pin. You are also able to pin Ball at the base of his slam soon as he touches the ground. There is no circle to tell you where he is going to land, but with some practice, you'll hit this about every time. It is a good way to get burst damage into the enemy Ball and throw him off of his play. You can look for off the map pins or places where you're able to take people off the map using your pin cancel. Be careful and know what characters are not worth attempting to pin off the map as they can get back up easily. It is crucial to watch your positioning when your pin is on cooldown as you cannot counter pin at this time, so you are more prone to boops or getting pinned yourself. Positioning while pin is on cooldown is also important since you cannot use pin to get out of whatever situation you may put yourself in, and Reinhardt's movement is already limited otherwise, so should not be your focus to use pin to build Shatter, as it can be used for much more, and other abilities build Shatter better. Tip number 4 is about Firestrike. This is your main tool for building Shatter. I find myself using Firestrike off cooldown, and since you have 2, there is very minimal downtime for Firestrike if you are using them in the right rotation. Look to line the enemies up. This means that you can hit the tank while also catching somebody in the back line. Get creative with this, but remember to keep it simple. Hitting these lines will give you a significant advantage in building Shatter, which most of the time you're playing around to get anyway. Exceptions for this include when you know the enemy has junk tire. In this scenario, don't Firestrike as often. Another scenario would be when you know the enemy Reinhardt has Shatter. You don't want to Firestrike as often to limit the amount of chances where the enemy Rein can shatter you. Shatter is what wins you games, and there are only a few tanks that can block Shatter, so when it is played right, you'll find this being the sole reason you win fights fairly often. It is important to know what abilities can cancel Shatter, like Sigma Rock or Orisa Javelin. With practice, you can limit the chances of your Shatter getting cancelled, which is important because it could completely swing the whole fight. You can tell the importance of Shatter as it has been mentioned in all of the other 4 tips mentioned in this video.
In short, Reinhardt is a very fluid character that needs to be played differently depending on who you are against. This will affect how much you are shielding and swinging your hammer, and what techniques you will use as a result. Look to secure space in picks with your pin while constantly looking to use your Firestrike to generate ultimate charge, as it can win you games. If you want to see more from Wanston, all of his links will be in the description for you to check out. As we release this video, we will also be duoing live on both of our channels to highlight how a support duo pairs along with Reinhardt if you're interested. Aside from that, I hope everyone enjoys this collaborative content, but until next time, I've got to peace out and Paz out. I'll see you in the next one.